"They think we're a freighter," one sailor said. "They're about to meet the Navy." That was the only line spoken aloud before the destroyer adjusted its course by just 5 degrees, a fraction that changed everything. In the next 19 minutes, 3 pirate skiffs would close in, reposition, and then break apart without a single shot exchanged. Why did such a small movement turn aggression into panic? Certain. The answer lies in one of the Navy's most underrated tactics: deliberate restraint. Daylight stretched slowly across the Gulf of Aden, turning the surface of the sea into a dull sheet of glass. 5 men in a scarred fiberglass skiff drifted in silence, eyes fixed on a slow-moving vessel several miles ahead. The boat appeared to fit every mark of a soft target. High decks, no visible weapons, no patrol escort in sight. One of the men lifted cheap binoculars, scanning for crew, weapons, or markings. Nothing told him it was anything other than another civilian freighter hauling containers through one of the world's most dangerous shipping lanes. What he couldn't know was that the ship's heavy steel hull was not built for cargo. It was built for war. Pirates working the Gulf rarely choose at random. They spend days observing traffic along the corridor, logging ship silhouettes, and studying routes on handheld GPS units. Vessels that move slower than 12 knots, or sit lower in the water from heavy loads, make easy marks. The smaller the radar profile and the fewer visible guards, the higher the odds of ransom. What these men didn't understand was how professional naval crews have learned to use that logic against them. By keeping radar signatures low and flags hidden, warships can mimic civilian patterns, using deception as their armor. A destroyer in neutral paint looks almost identical to a merchant hull at long distance, especially through scratched binocular lenses. As the skiff advanced, 2 more appeared over the horizon. Each carried armed men with light outboard engines, roaring toward what they believed was payday. Pirates rarely coordinate using radios. Most rely on quick hand signals or shouted directions across the water. This lack of precision gives them speed, but no cohesion. 3 boats formed a loose triangle around the freighter, testing its reaction. Still, there was no visible alarm, no evasive turn, no engine burst. Their confidence built with every second of silence. 8 miles away, inside the Combat Information Center, that silence had its own meaning. Radar operators tracked every movement, tracing the angles of approach and confirming speed. The destroyer's captain ordered only a minor shift, 5 degrees to starboard, enough to adjust the intercept vector without breaking posture. The ship offered no call on open channels and raised no flag. The pirates, reading passivity where there was calculation, mistook discretion for vulnerability. In that moment, both sides watched the other, one believing it had the element of surprise, while the other controlled the entire rhythm of the encounter. Modern piracy thrives on quick judgment. Crews test unknown ships by edging closer, watching if anyone reacts on deck or over radio. Sometimes a single voice transmission. "This is a coalition vessel," is enough to send attackers fleeing. But that day, the destroyer held its tongue. Every camera on board, every optical sensor, every thermal feed from the helicopter in surveillance orbit gathered proof of hostile intent. Pirates shared coordinates through a cheap satellite phone, unaware that their transmissions were already recorded and triangulated. Each flick of the throttle and each change in course fed the destroyer's system a full behavioral profile. Up above, a Seahawk helicopter hovered low on the horizon, its crew tracking 3 green dots on infrared scopes. They watched the lead skiff approach within firing distance, documenting weapon movements but holding fire. The rules of engagement demanded clarity before action, and the Navy had built a doctrine around deterrence through precision, not aggression. What the pirates misjudged most wasn't the distance, or even the ship's origin. Their fatal error was believing silence proved weakness. So, the destroyer's calm wasn't inaction, it was bait. And that illusion, built on misread confidence, would crack open the moment the ship finally chose to speak, not with gun barrels, but with sound and light that no pirate could ignore. The Seahawk circled at 800 feet, its rotors cutting a constant rhythm into the humid air above the Gulf. Below, 3 small dots stretched into wakes across the water, converging toward the destroyer's path. From this height, the helicopter's sensors locked cleanly onto each skiff. Sondro, the crew inside the MH-60R monitored the approach through a bank of infrared feeds that glowed with heat signatures, every movement of the pirates translated into coordinates. Over encrypted link, the aircraft streamed real-time video to the ship's operations center, giving the destroyer a complete, silent picture of the encroaching threat before anyone on deck had to raise a weapon. The Seahawk wasn't armed for attack. Its weapons today were invisible: long-range optics, forward-looking infrared cameras, a laser designator, and the long-range acoustic device, or LRAD. Each tool fit into a doctrine built around warning, not destruction. Cameras captured every gesture. The infrared feed tracked engine heat. The laser could signal or blind, depending on orders, and the LRAD could project a controlled wall of sound that forced attention. Naval aircrews call this their non-kinetic arsenal, an approach that keeps deterrence measured and legally sound, ensuring any action aligns with threat behavior rather than emotion. The pilots understood their role perfectly: to watch, record, and apply pressure through control of perception. As the lead skiff pressed forward, the helicopter maintained its bearing. One man stood upright in the bow, raising binoculars to his face. He was searching for signs of crew, unaware that an invisible green laser now traced across his deck, a calculated warning from the Seahawk above. It carried no heat, no impact, but the glowing dot told anyone looking that they were seen and targeted. Still, the boats kept advancing. The men shouted back and forth through the engine noise, one gesturing, another adjusting speed. They likely thought they were minutes from boarding range. Then, a new sound broke through the morning: the LRAD. It wasn't a siren or explosion, but a focused vibration that seemed to bend the air itself. The directed tone hit at a narrow angle, designed to saturate the pirates' hearing without spreading wide enough to affect distant ships. The effect was instant. The man standing at the bow staggered, dropping his binoculars. Another clutched the side of the skiff, trying to steady against the wave of pressure that made the fiberglass hull tremble. On the destroyer's bridge, the decision chain clicked smoothly from observation to deterrence. Orders were executed with clockwork precision: sustain tone for several seconds, shift laser, hold fire, document reaction. The doctrine behind these exact steps is deliberate. Phase 1 engagement is about composure: show control without crossing into escalation. Every maneuver must be defensible, recorded, and necessary. Where older confrontations relied on warning shots or radio threats, today's Navy operates through sensory dominance. By owning sight, sound, and evidence, they neutralize uncertainty. The pirates' confusion grew with every passing second of silence between the bursts of sound. They had no visual target, no response from the ship besides that relentless tone and the floating green light that never missed. Modern sea power depends on this restraint. Non-lethal signaling achieves in seconds what gunfire used to accomplish with risk and fallout. It avoids legal complications, prevents unnecessary casualties, and leaves behind clear digital proof of justification. Data streams from every camera, every radar sweep, and every acoustic pulse form a record stronger than any eyewitness story. The Seahawk's footage already showed the pirates' growing hesitation as they traded gestures, now interpreted as surrender. One lifted both hands while another throttled down, letting the skiff drift until it rocked low in the wake. From above, the other boats started losing shape, breaking their formation, peeling away one by one. Engines dropped to idle and turned outward into open water. The destroyer never changed speed, never raised its weapons, and never broadcast a warning. Its mere presence, backed by disciplined precision, filled the silence the pirates once mistook for weakness. The Seahawk maintained orbit for several minutes longer, sensors still fixed on the fading returns, documenting every frame as the small boats vanished into distance. Beneath it, the steel giant stayed motionless on its path, a single ship proving that command over perception can stop a fight before it ever begins. Dominance at sea has never depended on who fires first. It rests on who commands the space between fear and restraint, who shapes what the enemy sees, hears, and believes. The Navy understands that control of distance and visibility wins battles long before weapons unlock. Restraint, backed by precision, turns silence into strategy, showing threats exactly how futile aggression becomes under constant watch. This approach keeps global trade routes alive, not through combat, but through the certainty of response. Every encounter reminds the world that true strength isn't destruction. It's the power to end a fight without starting one.